This podcast was created on Messy. Create your own show today at messy.fm.
Monday, August 12th. It's a great day. Brace have an off day today. We kind of hit on him pretty good in the last show. So we're going to kind of turn our attention over to more of the high school football and also the talk about the NFL a little bit. We might touch on college here and there, but just to start off with, we're going to kind of break down what Max Preps has as far as the top 10 rankings. We'll even kind of go a little bit further. We'll probably go down into the 20 or 25 range. But to lead off with the top 10, we have Marietta rounding out at the number 1. I think they had the most players out of any high school in the state of Georgia inside the top 100. I think it was 9.
Yes.
9 out of the top 100.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and that's all according to 24/7 Sports where we saw it. We have Colquitt at 2, Lee County at 3, McEachern at 4, Parkview at 5, Lowndes at 6, North Gwinnett at 7, Cartersville at 8, Cedar Grove at 9, and then Archer is rounding out the top 10. Kind of looking into this, one of the questionable things that we were talking about before the show is Hillgrove. Hillgrove dipped all the way down to 17, according to Max Preps. We do have McEachern and Marietta in there at a Region 3 inside the top 10. But, Hillgrove's been the team to win, Region 3. Was it 3 years in a row?
Yeah, they won in 2016, 17, and 18.
Yeah, so,
3 in a row they had.
I don't know how you would expect them to slip that far, especially with, kind of the track record that they've had against McEachern and Marietta. Pretty much giving it to them all past 3 years. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense there. We'll kind of dive into that a little deeper and see what's going on there. Once again, if you listened to our show last night, kind of talked about what me and Ro will be doing. Once again, I think we're going to head out to McEachern on Friday.
Yeah, this Friday night game starts about 7:30 p.m. We'll be there.
Yeah. We also have some other games that we'll be keeping an eye on. We know that Hillgrove has their scrimmage game against Grayson.
Yeah.
Didn't really check the schedule to see who Marietta was playing, but so we're going to be at McEachern Friday night against East Paulding. So if you see us there, be sure to say hello, say what's up. I'm really looking forward to the season. We got a lot of good talent. There always is a lot of good talent, especially inside this Region 3A. A lot of guys that go on to have a lot of success, in college football and even at the next level in the NFL. We got another good amount of players. They're going to be pretty successful at the next level. We look at Hillgrove. We have Miles Murphy, who's the number 1 player in Georgia. Marietta's stacked with talent. Like we said, they had 9 players inside the top 100. Kind of leading the charge is Arik Gilbert and Harrison Bailey, the quarterback and the tight end. So, this is going to be a really tough region this year. I think this is probably the toughest that it's ever been, So, Ro, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
I think I'm looking over this top 20 right now. There's a couple of teams here that I'm probably going to rank them a little bit differently than Max Prep has their rankings. We'll get into that a little bit deeper here. But Marietta, Marietta's number 1. I got them number 1, 2 as well. Coca County, they should be at number 2. They was runner-up last year in the state championship last year. I'm surprised that Milton dropped so far.
Yeah.
And the rankings got them ranked number 19, and number 19, I think they're a little bit higher than that. I'm going to rank them a little bit higher than that this year going in, blindfolded. McEachern comes in at number 4, Lee County at number 3. Parkview is at number 5, right now at the top 5. Those are the top teams. They got Hillgrove number 17. I don't like that.
No, like kind of what I was saying beforehand. Take a team that's been region champs, 3 times in a row, and all of a sudden you slide them, behind 2 teams, in that region as it is.
Yeah.
So, Max Preps is pretty much going ahead and saying that they think Marietta and McEachern will probably both wind up winning against Hillgrove.
Yeah, that's
as a former alumni, I don't take too kindly at that, but you got to pay your respect when it's due.
It was undefeated last year, 10-0.
Yeah, when you win the region 3 times in a row, there's got to be a little respect, put on the school when you do these rankings, which is kind of shocking to me. Now I know you can look at the recruits, the 5 stars, the 4 stars, yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, I mean, Hillgrove just outplayed them.
Yeah.
We were talking about that last year. It's just better coaching. I don't know. It's both teams were very talented. Hillgrove lost a few guys, but then again, so did Marietta. So I mean, it's kind of who's the best that that's going to be able to rebuild and be ready to go this year.
Well, Max Prep has McEachern at number 4, and they got a new head coach this year.
Yeah, Hockman moved on. I think it's New Hampstead. I think it was the school that he went to in Savannah.
Yeah.
They brought a new guy in out of Ware County, which is kind of down in that South Georgia area, over in Waycross. I think is the biggest city inside of that county. So if you guys aren't too familiar with that, that's where that is. So that's interesting because Hockman, hell, even before I was in high school, he kind of ran the show over there. He had very successful teams. Him and Coach Ironside over at Hillgrove, at the end of the year, every year they went at it, for that region championship. So, with Hockman gone, the new coach in, it's going to be interesting to see how this team performs, how they kind of build around this coach, if they accept this coach, if they accept his, his beliefs and morals and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, when a big time program like that makes a change like that, you have a head coach leave. I mean, that can do, it can do some internal damage as far as, the rest of the coaching staff and the players as it is.
I covered them last year at McEachern. Matter of fact, for the last 2 years, I covered McEachern, and last year they had a really good team. They struggled against Colquitt County. They lost game 1 against Colquitt, and in the tournament they lost to Colquitt also again. So they only lost really 3 games last year, and they lost to Hillgrove. So really they only lost 1 regional game, and that was to Hillgrove.
Right.
Outside of that, they beat everybody else pretty impressively.
Yeah, and to kind of go on some of the teams that we're not going to be able to go see, unfortunately, because they're so far away. We look at the Colquitt counties, we look at the Lee counties, we look at the Lowndes. Even Camden County, I think, slipped in on this list. Yeah, right in front of Hillgrove at number 16. There's some really good football in South Georgia. A lot of great athletes down there. They were always a struggle to play in high school. And then, Colquitt counties kind of, build themselves their own little dynasty, if you will. With some of the facilities that they have and the coach that they have. So it's going to be interesting to see if they'll be able to, kind of get back into the mix this year. And then Lee County, again's, haven't heard a whole lot on them. We know that they usually, year in, year out, put a decent team together. But we look down on some of this list. North Gwinnett, always able to compete. They're always going to be there. Archer, always a really good football team. Grayson, always a really good football team. So you see these same teams kind of, I wouldn't say repeating, but I mean it's pretty consistent with performance-wise that they're going to be in the in the playoffs at the end of the day every year.
They have Milton at number 19. They dropped pretty far, I guess, because they lost a lot of players last year. They graduated, but still 19. Still got the same system. I don't know why to put them all the way down to 19. With the same system in place that they have down there at Milton. So I would move them up some. I'd probably move them into the top 10, right above Archer, and probably drop Cedar Grove. And I might move up Grayson some too and drop North Gwinnett down a little bit. But we'll see after the first couple weeks, and then I'll be able to give a clear cut of my top 20. So look for my top 20 in the next few weeks.
Yeah, so for you guys that don't know, so probably for the first couple of weeks, me and Ro will definitely be going out to the games. We're gonna kind of take it all in and see some stuff that we're looking for, and then we're gonna attempt to make our own list. As questionable as it might be to some of you guys, we're gonna dive in and see what we can pull out of it. Give a little content for you guys to see what you think. Always feel free to hit us up and tell us your opinions. We love it, but yeah, I mean, like we said, it's really interesting too because you look at the rankings, top 5 players, and you go on to 24/7 Sports and you look at the commitment list, and you'll at least see one of these kids from each of these schools on that top 10 to 15 on that list. And I don't know if Max Prep does that. I hope they don't, because at the end of the day, football is a team sport. I mean, you can't have one guy out there versus 11. You can only do so much. So, I mean, camaraderie is a part of a team and stuff like that, which I think that teams like Hillgrove, it's so well put together. But yeah, I mean, you look at Marietta, they got 9 guys, so it's almost like, hey, let's just slip them into the number 1 spot. They've got talent left and right. Which, at the end of the day, you got to come together and play together.
Let's look at it though. Marietta, these guys are in these 9 guys that's in the top 100 nationally. Harrison Bailey, quarterback.
Yeah.
Coming back, 3rd year there. Let's look at the 2 receivers coming back for their senior year also as well. They're really good. A lot of their defensive linemen and offensive linemen are coming back again.
Right.
These guys have been playing together for a while.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe that they got them ranked number 1. And these guys are committed to top colleges also as well. Not all of them are committed yet, but I know a few of them, like Harrison Bailey, he's already committed.
Right.
So that's why I believe they do. And McEachin, I can't believe McEachin is they got him at number 4. I would probably have him a little bit higher. I have to see what Lee County's doing first. But Coca County, they deserve to be at number 2.
Yeah. It's a good football team year in and year out.
They was blowing everybody away last year. I honestly thought they was going to win state last year, the way they manhandled McEachin at game 1, because I really didn't expect that. Like I said, I've been covering McEachin for a while now, and I really thought McEachin was going to win that game last year at the beginning one. They shocked me.
Yeah.
Coca. And then I was kind of nervous going into playoffs when I seen they was going to play him again. I was like, oh, here we go again, deja vu. And deja vu happened, and they scored even more points on them than for game 1. So, and I thought they was just going to run away with it. Then the last game, these guys put up a lot of points every game, Coca County. And that last game, Milton just put it to them, man. That defense just stuck it to them. They held them to like 12 points, I want to say.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Milton can kind of, regroup after losing some guys there and be able to put another team together, be able to make a deep run into the playoffs. But, so yeah, I mean, guys, we're really looking forward to the high school season. This is something, kind of new to us and, probably new to all you guys. There's probably not a lot of shows out there that's going to cover as much high school sports as we are. So we're glad to have you along. Feel free to, always pass along updates and stuff like that, with your schools if you feel that there's something that we're missing or something that, that we need to talk about a little bit more. And we're very open to ideas here, and we'll be sure to get to it.
Well, we look for David's going to be coming along with us also as well. Look for us at the games. 3 of us will be out there. Me, Ro, David, and Matt. We'll all be out at the game. So look for us out there. You can come over and talk to us. We'll be glad to interview people too also as well. And some of the fans. We'd like the fan support also as well, definitely.
So we kind of hit on this a little bit yesterday in the local buzz, but we're going to kind of break this down a little bit more, go a little more in depth. Just as NFL football as a whole, but we'll really dive into the Falcons. And we kind of just decided at the end of the segment we're going to do a little mock fantasy draft for you guys. We know that those drafts are probably coming soon. You're wondering who would you take? If you have the number 1 pick or if you have the number 8 pick. Unfortunately, if you do have the number 8 pick, that's a bummer. But so let's dive into it. We had the first preseason game last Thursday night. We fell short against the Miami Dolphins. Take it for what it's worth, I guess, in the NFL preseason. Some of you guys seem to ride pretty hard on it, and then there's some people that could really care less, So, I mean, what we're going to do, we brought David onto this segment right here, so we're going to kind of go down the line and talk about the importance of preseason, what it really means, I guess, for ball clubs as far as people making rosters and stuff like that. But, diving into the Falcons first, there's a couple battles that we're looking at. The first one is the running back position. Not so much the starter because we know that Devonta Freeman, hopefully he stays healthy. He's going to be the number 1 guy. So then we're looking at Ito Smith, and we're looking at a battle between maybe Kenyon Barner and Brian Hill. So what we've kind of seen in the past couple of games is those guys get majority of the carries to kind of see what they can do. Both have looked really good. Both have looked really aggressive running the ball. So go ahead and tell me, guys, what do we think about the number 2 spot as far as the running backs and then just preseason as a whole, really?
So I feel as though a lot of teams, you hear a lot around the league that a lot of teams have quarterback battles. Well, I think with the Atlanta Falcons, you have a running back battle who's going to be that number 2 option, and really it's looking like Hill and Olsen and this other kid, Brooks James, have a chance to really make that leap to second string and to probably get some good reps. And it's looking like, we'll probably come down to pretty much week 3 and 4. How I look at preseason, I don't really take the wins and losses. I think you take with a grain of salt, because you're just looking to see, what the third and how the rest of the roster is going to shape out. You're not seeing your starters until around 3 or 4. They might come in for a possession here and there, but I think the good news for Atlanta is they're pretty shored up at the wide receiver position. They're looking to see who's going to share the load with Freeman this year, and they're pretty much looking to put the offense together. Last year they weren't that great offensively as they could have been with the weapons they had. I think from a fan perspective, we all think that Julio could have been a lot more productive than what he was last year. So I'm looking for him to take another step up to his elite level and continue that surge. And I think this is Riley's coming out party this year to really be the second and clear option on that team. So I think Atlanta has a chance to really make some moves and be a positive influence in the division that's wide open behind the Saints, I believe.
Right. Well, I mean, when you look at the offensive production that we had last year, I think the only reason that it was hindered is what stuck out to everybody, and we addressed it at the draft, which was the offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the same problem. I think it was the year before we made the Super Bowl. Was that Matt Ryan had a blink of an eye to throw the ball. Offensive line was depleted last year, and it was depleted the year before the Super Bowl. And you saw what happened when Matt Ryan has time to throw. We were in the playoffs a year after the Super Bowl, and then the Super Bowl year itself, we were locked and loaded at the offensive line position, and he had an MVP year. I'm glad we addressed it at the draft, but of course we have Caleb McGarry right now, who actually just had heart surgery because he has a dysfunction with his heart. He has heart arrhythmia issues. So hopefully, he gets back and he gets healthy, because that's a big boy that we need protecting Matt.
I'm nervous.
You say you're nervous?
I'm nervous at that number 2 running back spot, because we lost Coleman. I miss him already. Freeman has had some injury problems.
Mm-hmm.
So by him having some injury problems, I'm kind of nervous. So all of a sudden, I looked at him last week. He did pretty good. 8 carries, 41 yards, 5.1. That's pretty darn good. The week before, didn't look so good.
Yeah.
6 carries, he only had 2 yards and 6 carries.
Yeah.
That wasn't good at all. But last week was pretty promising against Miami. So I'm looking forward to see what he does this week. Definitely am.
I think so too, and like I said, Olsen and Hill, like I said, they're really going to have to take that second step up as we get to the halfway point of preseason, because, like you said, Freeman, we don't know about his health, and hopefully we think the additions we added in the draft this year to the offensive line, along with what we have coming back, will mesh. And then, of course, we hope that nobody gets bitten by the injury bug, which was unfortunately Atlanta's downfall. Probably 4 weeks through the season, guys.
Game 1.
It was pretty hard to watch the Atlanta Falcons go down. So hopefully, I know we covered last week that there were already some injuries concerns with some of the big names, Julio Jones, I believe, not
Deion Jones.
So those guys already not starting out the season for the Falcon hopeful, but you just hope that those guys stay healthy, and we'll see what happens, because I think Atlanta can be just as good as any team in the NFC when they're healthy, of course, and we've seen it.
Well, the offense would have got us back to the playoffs last year, and we know it. The only problem was that we literally couldn't stop anybody on the other side of the ball, right? When we're on our 3rd and our 4th position on the depth chart at safety and linebackers, we're going to have problems no matter who we're going against. We even struggled against Rose Cowboys over there with Dak Prescott, who's definitely considered a bottom-tier quarterback in the league. But once again, they have a running back who's elite, and we couldn't stop him. We couldn't do anything to stop him, so we tried to shove 8 men in the box, and all of a sudden Dak Prescott was thrown right over our heads, and we didn't know what to do. So, with Ricardo Allen going out, with Keanu Neal going out, and Deion Jones out for, half the year, it was really hard for the Falcons to get any kind of rhythm going, because they knew they were probably going to have to put up 40 to 50 points a game if they were even wanting to stay in the game as it is, because the defense was just so weak.
But you need Vic Beasley to return back to his all-star form. 3 years ago in 2016, he was at his best. We need him to return back to that same form. If not, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle in that secondary. We need him to play the All-Star. And Trufant, he's always getting hurt. We need him to step back up. Somebody needs to have some conversation with him, get him going again, get his
Step
confidence
way
back
up. Needs to step way up.
Yeah, definitely. But we need him to become a Pro Bowl player again.
Yeah, and I actually like that you guys segued into defense. A couple names to watch is obviously Austin Larkin had a good game. He had 6 solo tackles.
He had a really good
game. He put a sack in there as well. And also it looks like we had an interception there in that game against from Jermaine Grace, which is another name. So we have a couple of young guys that could potentially, scrap their way defensively into that rotation during the season. And that's the name of the game. If you want to be successful in the NFC, you got to be able to force some turnovers and to be stagnant, especially with how deep the NFC is this year. You're talking about Seattle with Russell Wilson. You're talking about returning Dak Prescott. You're talking about Cam Newton, and within your own division, Drew Brees. So these are guys defensively on the defensive side that really got to take a step up along with what you said earlier. Obviously, Beasley returning to his 2016 form, but he's going to need some help. I think the secondary's got to, force some turnovers, and it's just good to see that Grace got an early interception along with Larkins having a pretty solid game. So those are probably two guys that really stepped up early in the preseason for the Falcons so far. Really impressed me personally.
Who's the corners that y'all like, guys?
Well, I think we can all agree, I think anybody listening can agree that with Robert Alford being gone and over in Arizona, we can all take a huge breath because every time the ball's thrown, we don't have to look at the bottom of the screen and see that yellow thing pop up at the bottom of the scoreboard for defensive holding. Look, Trufant's going to be out there. Hopefully his back injury is not a big deal, but, he's going to have to step up. I think we took... is it Kendall Sheffield? Is that who it was from Ohio State? I think in the 3rd or 4th round, which huge athlete, track runner, set a bunch of records at Ohio State. Just kind of took him for his freak athleticism, and hopefully can polish him into something special. I watched the preseason game. I watched him play a little bit. He looked a little lost out there at times, but there were some times he was just an absolute ball hawk. So I think that, he has the potential to step up and be a big role into that. But I think we're looking at Isaiah Oliver on the other side of the ball, second-year guy out of Colorado. Apparently, we have a thing for these Pac-12 cornerbacks, but they're going to have to step up because there's only so much that that Ricardo and KZ and Keanu can do for us as far as defending. A lot of these guys on the outside are talented. All these wide receivers are. And then, you got to worry about the guys in the slot as well. So, we got to worry about, hopefully Deion Jones' toe injury is not that big of a deal, and he can be able to, cover some of those tight ends and those slot guys. But, it all starts up front. We signed Grady Jarrett, the big contract. We talked about that a couple of days ago about how important that is to kind of lock him down.
Is he worth it?
Yeah.
He better be.
Yeah, I think we brought Adrian Claiborne back for another year. He was on the team with us when we were, making the Super Bowl run. So it all starts up there. If we can get pressure on these guys, I think our secondary positions are good enough to make a play on the ball. We saw KZ had a breakout year last year. I think he led the NFL in interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. So, these guys have got to be able to perform at the end of the day and just give our offense some type of chance. And I think we'll wind up back in the playoffs right where we should be.
Well, we just need to be concerned with their defense and the injuries on the defense because Michael Bennett is out with a broken ankle.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's reported broken ankle, so he's on the IR list. So already it's looking shaky. These guys got to stay healthy defensively.
Yeah.
To make a run.
My personal opinion, I don't think Atlanta's defense was as bad as people think outside the injuries and just outside the lack of production the offense was giving them throughout the season. If you play football, you would know it's like anytime you leave a defense on the field for that long and they're having to go back and forth, it's really kind of a bearing on your defense unless you just have that top 10, top 5 defense that can hold for the entire game. And Atlanta's not that. They're above average good defense with some upside, but I think that you should look for those guys to really make the next leap and be probably in the top 12 defensively this year coming up, especially if everybody stays healthy and if Beasley does what he's supposed to do and be the leader for that team that he's supposed to be.
If you really want to keep the defense off the field, to keep them healthy, the offense should not score as fast as they normally do.
You got to run the ball, which is the reason that
That's
is the reason we brought Dirk Cutter back.
Yeah.
You know, we want to go back to that zone blocking scheme on the offensive line and, you know, get our guys a little more chance. Devonta Freeman, give him a little more chance to get to the outside a little bit more. I mean, we go back all the way to when, you know, we talk about the Super Bowl. You know, we lost that game because we didn't run the ball. You know, and last year we got completely away from running the ball. I mean, our running backs was an utterly disgrace, you know, at some of the numbers that they were putting up in the year. If some of you guys had them on your fantasy teams, you know what I'm talking about. But, I mean, you look at, you know, we weren't able to run the ball. So, you know, that's why Sarkisian had to go. You know, we had to get back to our roots. You know, Matt Ryan has a great relationship with Dirk Cutter. We also brought in Mike Mularkey, the tight ends coach, is going to help out a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. And kind of get back to that old school thing that we had going in the prime years of Matt Ryan. So,
Well, that's why I'm watching the number 2 spot so much here in the preseason. Number 2 back is very, very important. He's going to be in the regular season as well, unless you want to give Freeman the ball 25, 30 times a game.
Not so much. I mean, like I said, Freeman, of course, it's going to be a wait-and-see approach with him. Obviously, we knew how good he was when he had his sidekick with him, but obviously he's no longer part of the franchise anymore. So, you know, he's going to have to carry at least 60% of the load, but he is going to need some help this year. Definitely if the Falcons want to be successful and get back to that smash mouth football that they were known for, running the ball and then, you know, controlling possession with Julio and Riley, of course, which is what they're looking to do.
Somebody's going to eat up the clock.
well, I'll leave it with this, too, before we kind of get into our mock fantasy draft we have going here. So we play the Eagles the second game of the year. That's the home opener, which is on a Sunday night, you know, in Mercedes-Benz. And all I'm saying is that if we lose to them again on the 1 yard line and all we have to do is score a touchdown to win, the city is going to burn down. You know, I mean, there's only so much you can do. We've watched it the past few years. One of them was to take us out of the playoffs to a backup quarterback named Nick Foles. And then we had the incident last year, the first game of the year, that we literally had 4 downs on the 1 yard line and we could not get the ball, you know, could not get the ball across. And I think that's why we're so looking forward to this different type of running offense with the zone scheme. Hopefully we'll be able to produce and actually break the goal line for once.
Well, since you bring this up right now, let's look at their schedule and go over what y'all think, guys, about the schedule. How you got them for as wins, losses.
Yeah, so we start off the year in Minnesota, I think, if I'm, year in Minnesota. So, I mean, it's Kirk Cousins at the end of the day. It's about as average as it comes. You know, I was listening to a podcast on an airplane a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the Mount Rushmore of average. And the first one to go said Kirk Cousins. Which, I mean, you think about it. I mean, this guy, the only reason he's above average is his paycheck right now. I mean, they paid him an absurd amount of money, and I've never seen him put anything close to those kind of numbers that he should be with the paycheck that he's getting. So, I mean, that doesn't make much sense to me. I think Falcons are fine against Minnesota.
W game 1?
Yeah, I have a W for game 1. You know, I think the Vikings defense has kind of really taken a step back over the last couple of years, and I kind of see that happening because of the play of your quarterback and just him not being able to be that guy that's worth 20. Because when you pay that much, you got to be able to carry your team and at least show that you can pass to cover up if your defense is kind of taking steps back. But I don't think that that's going to happen for the Vikings. So I have a win coming there.
Yeah, and then we get back to the Eagles game, right? Week 2.
I got my W there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, if we lose to the Eagles again, it's
We're at home.
You know, we're hoping that, well, I guess we're not hoping that Carson Wentz gets back, but you know, anytime you get an injury with a guy, you want the best for him. You know, you don't want to wish him any type of pain, but I don't know. I mean, what Carson Wentz are we going to get week 2?
Don't matter. We're at home, sold out.
I have a W there. I think Carson Wentz he's got to buy his team back. He's been missing him and Foles. It's like confusing with the team. Foles was leading. You know, Carson Wentz. They don't know who the guy is. So it's going to. I think
it was kind of like the team like Foles a little bit more in my eye. It looked like it gelled better.
And to be honest, I think the Eagles on paper have a great team, but I think it's going to take them time to really gel back and build that chemistry with Wentz. So I think the Eagles are going to get out to a slow start, and I think the Falcons could take advantage of that at home. So I do have a W there.
No, yeah, I mean the Eagles have a really good team on paper. I mean they've got one of the biggest freaks at wide receiver in Alshon Jeffrey, but for some reason they don't target him. Once again, if you had him on fantasy, you understand that they never targeted him, and I never really understood that one. Right. So moving on into week 3, we have
the Colts.
Yeah, the Indianapolis
They're
Colts.
actually
That's
my dark
right.
horse in the AFC. I
Yeah.
have them being really, really good. I'm going to say I don't like this matchup this early for the Falcons
I
because
don't
you're coming
either.
off a gruesome. It's going to be a gruesome game against the Eagles, and you're coming right at a 1:00 p.m. start time for the Colts at the Colts.
Yeah, in Indianapolis. Yep.
And so I think that the Falcons are going to get their first loss, putting them at 2-1. I think Andrew Luck and just the weapons they've put around him, just how if you look how they've built this team over the last 2 years, the turnaround they had last year, I see it continuing. I see them being a favorite. Don't be surprised if this team reaches an AFC championship, maybe perhaps against the Chiefs or even the New England Patriots. They're just that good.
Yeah,
in my
that's-
opinion.
That's going to be a tough team to beat. Andrew Luck, if he's healthy,
And
He can
T.Y.
beat
Hilton.
you. Yeah,
T.Y. Hilton. I mean, that
man.
dude is unbelievable.
Oh, he's
Some
a
of the plays.
beast.
I mean, he's a huge playmaker.
Yes,
I mean,
he is.
I think he had the most 50-plus yard touchdown catches last year, or something absurd like that. So I mean, we'll get to the fantasy thing, but that's a guy you want right there.
Sleep on him.
Huge play, especially with a questionable Falcons secondary to start the year off. We really don't know what we have. Keanu and Ricardo will be back, but that's a tough matchup to go up in Indianapolis. They know that they're going to be a good ball club this year. So I agree with you guys. I think you wind up going 2-1 right there
Yeah.
to start off the first 3 games of the year.
I agree.
Moving into week 4, what do we have over there, David?
Yeah, the Titans.
Yeah, Tennessee Titans. That's
I think this is going to be a tricky one because look, both teams like to control the time of possession. If you like running backs, for the Titans, you got Henry. If you remember what he did in Bama and what he did last year, he broke out in the scene late.
it was
He
like
had that-
299 yards
Yeah.
or something absurd like
so,
that.
Yeah, this is going to be a game of possession and who can control it. And I think, like I said, it just depends where the Falcons, running game is by that point. You hope it's established. I don't think you can lean too much on Matt Ryan's arm in this game because I think it's going to be every second in this game is really going to count. I think it's going to be close. I do have the Falcons pulling this one out, but I think don't sleep on the Titans. I think the Titans have a case to that you got to
I
respect
got
them
the
on paper.
Falcons winning this
So
one. I got the Falcons handling this one pretty easily.
really,
They're going to recover from the Coast game.
okay.
Well, it also depends on what Marcus Mariota do we get this year. I mean, this dude's been on a consistent just carousel of, injuries, good performances, bad performances. I mean,
He's
there's
been up and down.
up and down. I mean,
Yeah.
what are we getting out of this guy? I mean, we all remember what he did at Oregon, unbelievable. And then ever since he's gotten in the league, it's just been up and down, and it's kind of hard. As a Tennessee Titans fan, I feel. I mean, that's a painful thing to watch every year because you're already not just loaded with weapons other than drafting Henry a few years ago. You got to lean on your quarterback at that time, and you can't lean on Mariota right now.
Nope. Sure can't. Can't depend on him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with David a little bit, and I also agree with Roe a little bit. Some part of me thinks that the Titans game is going to be trickier than people think, but then another part of me thinks that, we should, it shouldn't even be close.
No,
So it'd be
not
interesting
close.
to see what kind of offense that Tennessee can put together and see how that goes. But yeah, I have a win there, so that would put us at 3-1.
So next up, we got the Texans, and again, this is a huge game for the AFC. Like
Now,
I
this
said,
is the tricky game to me.
okay, and I agree with you. I think this is a setup game for the Falcons because, like I said, they could play a grind out game or easily win the Titans game, and then you got to come in with the psyche, come back, and play the Texans, who, in my opinion, are forcing the AFC because you look at what they have defensively, and I think Deshaun Watson really puts it all together this year.
It's his 3rd year.
He has to put it
He's
together.
mobile.
He's got to put it together this year, and I think with the weapons they gave him, what they have defensively, it's going to make it pretty interesting. It's going to test Matt Ryan in the pocket and his composure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That
because
defense is stout.
He's gonna
Yeah.
have to make some smart choices, and I think this one is going to be a low scoring game. I think whoever can get to 24, 21 points wins this one for sure. I really like the Falcons to pull this one off, but I think it's going to be a close one for sure. I think it's one of those prime time games. Could potentially be a preview for what things to come down
Watson's
the
going to
line.
make the
So,
Falcons' defense work. He's going to make them work for everything. They're going to be tired 4th quarter come around. This guy is good, explosive. He's mobile, very athletic, and he can pass. I think Atlanta Falcons going to see a true test this week.
Yeah, I mean, we can all
Really
look at the
do.
facts here, but the Falcons have always struggled with mobile quarterbacks.
Yes.
I mean, we look at every time we play Seattle, and Russell Wilson always gives us a heyday. We looked at last year we played Baker Mayfield, gave us a heyday up in Cleveland. We look at other guys too. I mean, I'd even consider Aaron Rodgers to be a semi-mobile quarterback because his ability to move his feet around the pocket.
Yeah.
But when he steps into that pocket and steps around, and he makes a dart that he throws, he's given us trouble every time we've played him, especially in Green Bay and stuff like that with his arm ability and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know. I
think to your point, how you got to approach that is, when you have a mobile quarterback, you got to kind of take away one of the assets, make him into a pocket quarterback. You have to collapse and get pressure. So the defensive line's going to have to earn their paycheck that week. They're going to have to get some pressure, especially on the ends. You got to collapse within first, and then you can bring a linebacker or shoot the gaps to really control what the quarterback is doing, which is, obviously easier said than done.
But I think
I think the Atlanta Falcons, they have the personnel to be able to at least make a case to do it.
There is one quarterback that we handle pretty well, and we actually play him 2 times a year, and that's Cam Newton. I think the Falcons have done a remarkable job in the games that we played in the past at making Cam Newton one-dimensional. I mean, we saw it in the year that I think it was after the Super Bowl. Cam Newton started out of the game 0 for 11 with 0 yards. We were talking about it earlier. These throws weren't even remotely close. So I feel like if you have the ability to shut down one side, like you were saying, David, it throws them off because they don't know how to react anymore. If you shut down their mobile side, they say, "Uh-oh, I got to stay in the pocket," and they don't feel comfortable. They feel that timer going off in their head, and they say, "I don't feel comfortable with this. I got to get out." They know that that defense is coming. So I mean, if we can keep Deshaun Watson contained, I think we get the job done. But if not, it's going to be a really long day for the Falcons.
I got a toss up.
Okay.
About even for me.
Yeah, I mean that's a hard game to pick, especially this early in the year. We don't know what kind of defense we're going to get, out of the Falcons, and we don't know what to expect out of Deshaun Watson.
I think it needs to end up by this time 3-2.
Yeah, I think it could easily be 3-2. I just lean more towards the Falcons to me because I just feel like, I think that the defensive line will be able to kind of keep Deshaun Watson at bay. But if not, like I said, it will be a long day for those guys. But I just see it being a very close 21-24 type of game, coming out to the wire because both teams, defensively and time of possession wise can really, move that clock and move the change. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, what we're going to do, go ahead, bro. You got something to say?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the second half of the season probably next week.
Yeah.
We'll round out these first 8 weeks here, then we'll move into our fantasy. But moving on to Arizona, I got that at W.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that one. Next.
Got a rookie quarterback and all this. So, here we go up to the Rams. Mm-hmm. Here, this is week 7, the Rams.
I don't like this one.
2 games before the bye week. Mm-hmm. So, I like this game right here.
I don't.
I do.
I mean, we know what's coming.
I'm gonna make a point. I question Todd Gurley's health. This is his psyche for his health. I just feel like since the Super Bowl, even if he comes back healthy, will he have the same trust in that knee to be the explosive back that he's what we've seen him as? I think C.J. Anderson too.
Is he gonna get the workload?
Can he handle the workload? Or was that just a 1 year he just blew up? One year and then
you look at it too. This is going to be a high-scoring game.
It is
because the Rams' defense is extremely suspect. We saw it. I don't even know. I felt like we watched Big 12 football Monday night last year when we watched the Chiefs and the Rams. I think they were supposed to play in Mexico or something like that, and they didn't. They wound up scoring like 122 points or something absurd like that. So I mean, I expect something very similar because that Rams defense is suspect.
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of points. This ain't gonna be like the game. Like the game that we talked about against Houston. Mm-hmm. It's going to be high scoring.
I think so too. But I don't know. I think this one's definitely a toss up as well. I think the Rams, obviously, you can't ignore they were in the Super Bowl last year. I still see them as a playoff team, but
I'm not a golf fan.
You say you're not a golf fan? Actually, I think we talked about this before. I actually question. And this is a point I made ever since the Super Bowl. I think that golf's playmaking ability to do it by himself. He's a system quarterback to me right now until he can kind of show me that he can kind of freelance the offense a little bit. And I think that's one of those areas you can exploit Jared Goff with because you don't know if he's grown up and matured into that quarterback that can kind of survive without this. I think he has an excellent coach and excellent system to hide behind, but I think this is a game that the Falcons are capable of winning, but it's just about them executing and limiting and exploiting Goff.
I agree. What you think, man?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And then we turn around the next week. We got an NFC West team, don't we? Seattle.
Seahawks.
I hate playing them every year.
Russell Wilson.
We wind up playing them every year.
He has a new toy to play with too. And, the kid from Ole Miss, I forget.
You're talking about dude that's got like 1.2.
Metcalf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He has a new toy, and it looks like they're gelling pretty well in the preseason, and they're already establishing some good chemistry. So, I will say our secondary is going to have to be ready. We know we're going to have to probably put a safety over the top for him because by this time of the season, he's going to command it, and I think he might make a run for rookie of the year on the offensive side if Wilson is able to really get him the ball. Because if you look at Wilson in the past, he's never really had that guy to throw to outside of Baldwin.
Yeah,
I would say
he's been in and out with injuries, in the years past.
And
Anyways.
he's always had to run for his life to do so much to get that offense started. So I think now that you give him a Metcalf, I think it'll be pretty interesting. A true test for the
So you
secondary.
say Seattle's going to win?
I think it's gonna be. I think you can't sleep on the Seahawks. To me,
The best thing about this though is that both games are at home.
yeah.
Yeah, both games are at home. We don't have to go to the 12th man out there in Seattle, and we don't have to go out to LA. Although I don't even know what LA stadium's even called anymore because they've been rebuilding stadiums left and right. So
Yeah, they're putting up new stadiums all the time, so we don't know. But then we're going to the bye week after that, so they'd be well rested.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard schedule from the first 8 games because when they come back after the bye, I guess we're going to talk about next week, it's going to get even harder.
Right. I have them going 6-2. They should be about 6-2.
yeah,
6-2 to start off.
6-2 or 5-3 is about where I have them at. I think we lose either to the Rams or the Seahawks, and I think we lose one early, either the Colts or Houston.
I got them 5-3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, 5-3 going into the bye week,
It's not bad.
not bad at all. You set yourself up for a 10-6 year, which will get you into the playoffs.
Yep.
Hopefully it gets you into the division spot. We got to take care against against the Saints. But so moving on in, fantasy football's coming up soon. We're all going to be playing in the league, I assume. We're going to have some bragging rights thrown out there, but it's a tough time of the year. There's some people that take it extremely seriously. They throw money on the line. They're out there making big boards left and right, have draft nights with all their boys and stuff like that. So if you guys are out listening, we're going to kind of give you our 2 cents for the first couple picks. There's a couple different ways to do this. We have a snake draft, which if you don't know how it goes from 1 to 8, and then it flips around. The guy with the 8th pick picks first in the second round, and it kind of works its way backwards. That's where the snake term comes from. And then you have another one that's kind of like an auction. I think you get like $250 or something like that, and each person gets a chance to throw somebody up on the block, and you kind of just bid for the player, which is really interesting because that kind of harnesses your inner GM. Almost that kind of like at draft night, you're like, oh, I'm not spending $70 on that guy. I'm not spending $80 on that guy because you get your 2 guys that you want. All of a sudden, you got $5 in the bank, and you got to get the rest of your team. So, so we're gonna kind of break it down. We're gonna just float who we would take if we had the first round or the first pick in our draft. So I'm gonna go first. I'm taking. Can you guys guess it before I say it?
Yeah. You going to go for a quarterback? Is
Yeah.
What you tell me?
Go ahead.
You
I'm
go-
going for a quarterback. Who's it gonna
Okay.
be?
You're probably going to go with that Brady dude with the 6th round.
Absolutely
Is that what
not.
you're doing?
No, Patrick Mahomes. If you guys don't know, and you guys had this man on your fantasy team last year, you don't understand how much that he just backpacked my team. I mean, he literally carried me every single week. I mean, there was times out there he was putting 70 to 80 points a game. And I think the biggest thing for it is you look at the big playmaking ability that he has. Now, we don't know about Tyreek Hill and what all that entails for him as far as this year. But one, Mahomes has an absolute rocket attached to him on his right arm. Right, so that's the ability for big points, 70, 80-yard touchdown passes, equates to big points as far as fantasy. So
you're saying he's going to repeat 50 touchdowns this year?
no, he's going to be close. I don't think it was a fluke at all. I don't think a sophomore slump is coming. I think that his ability to make plays is going to stay there. As long as he's got that offensive line to protect him, he's got the weapons that that he did. I don't see why he couldn't do anything close to what
I
he
got
did
him about
last year.
45 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, which I mean, if you're looking for a quarterback as far as fantasy speaking, 45 touchdowns is going to get the job done for you. I believe.
I got them in the AFC Championship game too as well.
So go ahead. We have the newbie David is about to make his pick. He's either going to make it or break it with you guys as fans. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm gonna go Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, you won't be seeing him next week. Don't worry about that.
He's
Nah.
got calf injury.
I think this is one of those seasons. I mean, I know it's not looking too good for him early with the injury he does have, but the offense is set for him to have a good year if he is healthy. It's a gamble, but I believe that this year is one of those years he just stays healthy, and this is his year that everything seems to go right for the Colts. I think he had a successful year. We saw what he could do when he had a line to protect him. And I think if you're looking to get some points and some sure points and to have a good offense, it's probably going to be at least a top 5, top 6 offense in the NFL this year. I think you go with Andrew Luck just because based off what he can do and what the costs are going to be this year. In my opinion.
I mean, it's a huge risk, but huge reward. If he winds up staying healthy, I mean, this guy's floating up there with Mahomes as far as numbers-wise, but you got to hope he stays healthy. I mean, how many years has he been in the league? He's probably been there in 8-ish years, right? And how many years has he been healthy out of it? I can count it on, I think, like 2 fingers, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 fingers. But when he is, he's elite, which is, something that kind of gets blown over the top is because he's injured so much that we kind of don't really focus on the numbers when he is healthy.
Think about this, Matt. To be positive, last year, the end of the season, 7-game win streak.
Yeah.
The guy was powerful. He was a very impactful player. Got him all the way into the playoffs. They did really well. They did well the first round of playoffs, I believe, too. So they did well. Only thing on him, knock against Luck, he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, it's the only thing.
That's it. My pick, Drew Brees. My man, Drew Brees. That boy is bad. And he got Thomas with a new contract, too. Oh, man, this guy's going to be good. I had him on my fantasy team last year. This man is good. He give me 25, maybe 30 to 40 points every game, man. I mean, he never let me down.
Well, our audience is like probably 90% Falcons fans. So that right there might have just written you off for our fans right there. I hope you know that. We're rolling out here talking about the Falcons all show long, and you're going to come out here and say your first pick is Drew Brees.
It's just fantasy football, man.
Good luck out there, brother. I understand. I mean, look,
fantasy.
Drew Brees was extremely impressive last year, and we got to give it to him. They lost on, which is still one of the biggest laughing matters that we've ever seen as Falcons fans, because it finally feels nice to have something to throw in their face when they, lash at us with the 28-3 jokes. So, that pass interference call, stuff like that, actually convinced the league that we're now going to be able to review pass interference calls within 2 minutes, which is kind of a game changer, kind of getting off subject here. But, Drew Brees, he's a good pick. I would take him if he's available. I'm not taking him first pick overall.
Hey, I like the Falcons. Don't get me wrong. So I'm gonna pick another player from the Falcons who I love too. So as well. But Drew Brees is start my fantasy off. I'm going with Drew Brees.
Okay, so that kind of we all right there just took quarterbacks, which is interesting. We actually didn't plan that for you guys listening. That was just off the top of the head. So let's kind of move into running back positions with who we would take if we had. Say we needed a running back position and we had everybody available. This is a perfect scenario, obviously, but just kind of roll with it. So, best available, Rose already got his hand up, so we're going to let him go first.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah?
You heard me, Ezekiel Elliott. That's who I'm going with.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is that he's got to kind of, show up to training camp, and
I'm not concerned with that. Jerry Jones, just show him the money. Like they said, you show him the money, man, he's going to run the ball. 2 out of 3 years, man, this guy's got the rushing title. If he can spend it in year 2, he would have 3 in a row. No players ever had 3 in a row. So they do a monkey wrench him in season 2 by suspending him 6 games, which he shouldn't have been suspended at all anyway. So he almost had 1,000 yards rushing even with 6 games out.
Yeah. Dude's a horse in fantasy football, don't get me wrong. I'd pick him too. I'm just going to wait till the draft gets a little bit closer to the start of the season, because if that dude's not showing up to camp, I'm not doing it. Because if you don't guys remember how many people got screwed on Le'Veon Bell last year in fantasy, he came out at the beginning of the year and apologized for all those people that drafted him in their fantasy leagues, because they were all banking that he would show up, and he didn't show up all year, and people wasted their first round pick on Le'Veon Bell thinking, are you going to come? Are you going to come to camp? Are you going to come to week 1, week 2? And all of a sudden, you kind of just forgot about it. But that was a complete waste of a number 1 pick last year for a lot of people. So that leads me to my discussion. I'm taking Le'Veon Bell with the New York Jets. Big reason right here. Sam Darnold. Dude needs all the help that he can get right now in New York. So I think having somebody like that, and you look at it, if you play a standard or a PPR league, this dude is a horse in PPR leagues too, because of the amount of receptions that he has out of the backfield. We kind of talked about this before, but this dude could be a wide receiver if he wanted to be. Some of the catches that he makes, so he gets so many touches that's gold right there to fantasy owners, in my opinion. Now we'll see what the offensive line can do for him, because if the offensive line isn't there, you can just kind of forget it and write off that one. But David's over there shaking his head at me, so we're gonna we're gonna go ahead and let him see what he's got to say.
So with my second selection, I would say this, man. This is going to be probably the top 2, top 3 offense before it's all said and done. I think this person's going to play a major role in it. I'm going to take Kareem Hunt. I'm taking Kareem Hunt because I think that, in that offensive system, you're going to be so focused on, and people are so focused on Odell Beckham and on what the wide receiver core has. But I think they're going to
play 8 games. He's going to be out 8 games.
Yeah, I was about to say he's suspended the first 4, isn't he? Or the first?
Is it? I thought it was 4.
8.
It was 8.
8.
You want us?
games.
You want us? You want us to come back to you on that one right there?
Well, you know what?
He gonna miss, man.
I'm gonna go with my plan B then.
So Chubbs is gonna start out the first 8 games.
Yeah,
He's
but
gonna come
you're
back
not.
to 9.
You're
He
not
gonna
wasting.
come back
You're not
week
wasting a
9.
number 1 and number 2 pick on Chubb. I tell you that right now. I hope you don't. I know you guys are diehard Georgia fans out there,
I
but
thought
please
he got
don't take
reduced to
Chubb.
4. I thought it was 4. He got reduced to. Okay. Well, in that case, then I'm gonna go with my plan B, and I gotta go with James Conner. Then
Yeah.
I would take James
Good
Conner
pick.
because
Out of Pittsburgh,
they got a good offensive line still. They just drafted a blocking tight end, so they're gonna go back to smash mouth football. You're getting the ball out of Ben Roethlisberger's hands more this year. You don't want him throwing a bazillion times. He doesn't have to, honestly, at this stage in his career. So I think James Conner is gonna have a breakout season as far as being a good reception, maybe a second or third option for Ben to throw to, and also just a pretty reliable back out the backfield.
That's interesting. So we took 3 different guys. I'm actually surprised that Roe didn't take Alvin Kamara on the Saints train that he's been on to start off this fantasy whole gig. But we kind of move into the flex position. We'll get to that before we get into the wide receiver. Flex position is a really big part of fantasy football. And if a lot of you guys don't know, you could take a wide receiver, you could take a running back, you could take a tight end. You could take pretty much anybody but a quarterback. So I mean, that's a huge position, and I would encourage you guys, if you're out there drafting in your fantasy, don't be afraid to look for that guy in your second or third round, because that guy right there can put up numbers. You get your 2 running backs, but if you can get a third one that's able to produce, or even a wide receiver that you can fill in that spot, you've got a chance to put up some serious numbers at the flex spot, which brings me to Alvin Kamara, who would be my number 1 in the flex spot if I could get him, because of his ability to once again, another guy like Le'Veon Bell gets a lot of catches out of the backfield, and he gets a lot of touches, as far as carries. So that's who I would take in my flex position. So Rose over there warming his hands up like he's ready to go. So we'll see what he has to say.
I'm about to shock y'all. Watch this guy this year in my flex position. This is who I got. Sonny Michel.
Sony Michel. You're trying to get back on the fan side with the Drew Brees comment. You're coming back with the Georgia guy.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, watch out for him.
That's interesting because Tom Brady can make some guys look very, 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 very good. I mean, we've seen it with a couple of guys. We're like, who in the hell is this guy? And all of a sudden, Tom Brady's making him look like the next coming of Jesus. So it's interesting to see how those turn out.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Well, while y'all did that, I think I'm going to go with the option that I think is going to have a breakout year as a rookie, in my opinion. I'm going to go Hollywood from Baltimore. I think it's set up for him to have a breakout. I mean, let's be honest. Wide receiver-wise, he's going to be the number 1 option coming out. We know what he could do in college. And I think if you're looking for that underrated guy that can get you some points here and there, I would say look for this guy. If they can get some good QB play out of Lamar Jackson this year, and if he's improved throwing wise, I think he can be a pretty resourceful wide receiver for you to have in your draft this year.
So something interesting that none of us actually picked in the running back position, going back on there a second, we forgot about somebody up in the Big Apple. Saquon Barkley. But it's interesting that we all kind of dove away from that situation, because right now the Giants offense is in a train wreck. We have no idea what we're getting out of Daniel Jones.
No.
If he's even going to play, it could still be Eli's team.
I didn't pick him because I don't even know what the offensive line going to look like.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing that scares all of us. I can't even – only one I can name as far as receiver-wise is Evan Ingram, and that's because I went to high school with him over at Hillgrove. That's it. So they're missing a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
So I mean, Saquon's going to be the horse again, but then you start to worry about, overworking him, overloading him. All of a sudden he gets hurt. Boom. Done.
I already got him coming in last in the division.
Yeah.
Giants.
No, I mean, the Giants are going to be bad
They're
this
set
year.
up to it. It's really going to be a Daniel Jones show by about week 6. Week 5, once Eli becomes Eli Manning, the Eli Manning we've known for the last 4 or 5 seasons now. So.
Yeah. So we got a few more positions to get to. We'll pick 2 right here to kind of speed it up a little bit, but we're going to go wide receivers. 2 top receivers right here. So number 1 and number 2, you guys know who we're taking at number 1. We're taking.
I already know who I'm taking. You're probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking, aren't you?
Taking Julio
Roll Tide
at number 1. And then at number 2 is when it gets interesting, because you want to take. There's a lot of different guys that you can take. Antonio Brown right now has freezing toes, so I don't know about that. I mean, I guess we'll have
You don't want that.
I
He's
guess.
retired because they won't let him wear a helmet. He wanted to wear.
Yeah, well, I guess
Really?
he finally had his meeting with the NFL group, and he finally realized that after everybody has been telling him 10 times that he can actually not wear that helmet. So he's like, oh, okay, I'll just go get another helmet then. So after all that, I don't know what's been going on there. So with my number 2, I think I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, okay.
So that would be, I'd take Julio and DeAndre. Obviously, when you're in a draft, if for some ungodly reason you get Julio and DeAndre on your team, something's wrong with the people you're drafting with. But then again, you know, we're kind of taking in a perfect scenario. So I mean, more likely you're kind of going to get like even if you were to take, you know, Julio Jones early and then kind of sneak in like a Calvin Ridley or something like that in the 3rd or 4th round, because they have the potential to both be 1,000-yard receivers. All I'm saying. We'll move on. David, what do you got over there?
I'm gonna go Juju, and I'm gonna take my guy from the Seattle Seahawks that I just said.
Metcalf. Yeah.
I'm gonna take Metcalf.
All right.
Reason being is because I know people are like, oh, you're gonna double up, but I gotta tell you, I think James Washington's gonna have a come out party for that number 2 spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna take a lot more pressure off because you have to start paying attention to him. And then Pittsburgh's already has established a system for wide receivers. Next person up, they just have a system in place to make those guys successful. So I think Juju's gonna. And plus, Juju has a chip on his shoulder. I think a lot of people, he's heard the noise about, oh, you're not the next AB. You can't do it. AB made you, and I think he's gonna be out this season to prove a point. So I think he'll still get his 1,000 yards. I think it'll be a tough 1,000, but I think he's built to get 1,000 yards. And I think, like I said, Metcalf earlier, he's gonna be the primary target in Seattle. So, and I think he's a big target, and he's physical, and those wide receivers do pretty well out there. And the division he's in is kind of built for him to be successful earlier on that first year. So
I can see Rose's head just churning right now for answers, so I'm gonna let him see what he's got to say over here.
You got my boy Julio Jones, man. I'm gonna go with one guy y'all ain't even thinking about. Y'all don't like Odell Beckham or something?
No.
Huh?
I'm gonna be honest. It's not that I don't like Odell Beckham. It's just hard because it's like you got so much talent on there, and I don't think he's gonna get the numbers that you think he's gonna get because they're gonna be a good team club. I don't think he's gonna be an individual.
I mean, you think about it, he's splitting time with his boy from LSU with Landry as well. It's another thing to think about.
And Njoku, and then they got the running backs. You can pick them out. Like I said, it's Odell Beckham at the end of the day.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's going to be a really good football team.
Yeah.
But as far as fantasy production, if you're not taking Kareem Hunt after, you know, his suspension, it's going to be – I mean, I think Baker's going to do a good job of kind of dishing the ball around. I mean, Baker's a really good quarterback. So, I mean, I think he's going to find a way to distribute the ball well. And then you got to think one of those guys is probably going to draw a double team. So then it's kind of just flip a coin at that point.
Okay.
So – I mean, go ahead with your next pick. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just telling you why I didn't take those guys.
I'm gonna go Beckham anyway. I'm gonna go with him. I'm gonna roll with him in my number 2. I'm gonna go with, you already mentioned him, or I'm gonna go with another guy. Ridley.
Yeah.
I think he's number 2 in Atlanta. You talked about that a little bit, David, earlier too as well. I think he's gonna be the number 2 option.
Right.
And I got him on my fantasy league.
All right.
With him definitely.
So we got one position left. We can get to. We'll save the defense and the kicker, I guess. If you guys want to actually talk about that, we can save that for the next show. But tight ends is interesting. It's hard to pick. David mentioned one earlier over in Cleveland that I would probably snag. But then after that, I mean, it's kind of wide open. There's nothing really sticks out to me. You look at veteran guys like Olsen, who's a walking medical bill in Carolina. O.J. Howard in Tampa Bay, maybe, if Jameis Winston can turn it around. But, I mean, I honestly don't know. I got to do more homework on the tight end position. That's hard to pick.
Every time I choose a tight end every year in fantasy football, they don't do well. I don't think tight ends get used as much as they used to. A lot of teams use a slot receiver. They use a third receiver and use in that slot in that tight end spot as well. So, or if you have a tight end there, they use him as a blocker a lot.
Yeah.
So they really don't get a lot of touches.
And a lot of people this year are going to be without the no doubt pick with Gronkowski being out. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you didn't know who you were going to take early. You saw Gronk on the board. You're like, oh, might as well just take him and get the tight end position out of the way. But guess what? He's gone now. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out.
So I don't really have. What do you think?
If I had to pick, just because of I know the system, I think Matt Patricia is an interesting name that you should pay attention to. He's going to model his offense about what they did in New England with the 2 tight end set. So I think you should really pay attention to Jesse Jones, would be my pick for tight end, because I think he's going to get some passes, especially some catches, being a big target he is. We're talking about a guy who's 6'6", 6'7", who's going to give you some a serious threat in the wide receiving group this year. So I think he'll get some catches and can get you some points if you're looking for that third receiver in your fantasy draft. So I would pay attention to that name.
Yeah, I mean, another guy that could be interesting, if you guys didn't watch the draft, you noticed that Iowa had 2 tight ends taken in the first round, which I don't know.
One of them went to Detroit, right?
Yeah, one of them went to Detroit, and then the other one went to Denver. Noah Fant actually was the one that went to Denver. So I don't know. I mean, take it to what it's worth. And Noah Fant was an extremely good tight end at Iowa. So that'd be interesting to see how that turns out.
Okay, you got a few of them here on the list I'm looking at for 2019 NFL tight ends. You got Jared Cook, New Orleans.
No. Pass. Next.
Demetrius Harris. Now he played with Cleveland Browns.
Next.
Charles Clay, Arizona.
Next. Next.
Lewis in Green Bay.
Next.
Aaron Rodgers.
Dwayne Allen in Miami Dolphins.
No. Next.
Who's quarterbacking?
Either Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh Rosen. So no. Next.
These guys on
It's
this,
tragic.
Lance Kendricks in New England.
No. I don't even know who that is.
Deion Sims, Miami again.
Next.
These guys, they really don't have a lot of Jermaine Grisham in Arizona Cardinals
No, next.
spot. So
You look at Kettle from San Francisco, right? Was that George Kettle? I think it was his name was. Be interesting to see what happens with Jimmy G coming back. But
If you're in the fantasy draft, focus on Detroit, David Njoku, or Denver, and you have a couple others. But those are going to be your clear-cut guys when it comes to offenses that utilize the tight end position, in my opinion.
Other than that, just close your eyes, scroll down, and pick somebody. Because, I mean, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
For Kansas City?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of did forget about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be, yeah.
That's kind of embarrassing. That's kind of our job to remember guys like that. But, I mean,
Unless you would take the old band.
like we say, it's,
Why don't you go with Witten? He's back.
no. God, no.
For what?
Dude's been calling games for the past 2 years. No, he's not going back on the field. No, we know you love your Cowboys, and you've already pissed off the Falcons fans tonight with the with the Drew Brees comment. So I think that's enough from Rowe for the night. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but no, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's no telling what Jason Witten's going to be able to do. You look at other guy. Is Jimmy Graham even still playing? I mean, we kind of forgot about. I mean, dude hasn't done anything.
Who's he play for now? He played for
Green Bay.
You play for Green Bay?
Yeah. No. I mean, that dude's done too. So, I mean, like I said, tight ends, just pick one. Because at the end of the day, we really don't think it's going to be anything interesting except for, I guess, Kelsey that we forgot about.
Hey, Matt, I redeemed myself. I picked Ridley, okay?
Yeah, that is true.
Okay.
Just remember that, guys, when you're listening to the show, that he did pick Calvin Ridley as one of his wide receivers. He also picked Drew Brees as the first pick that he would take.
And I would have picked Jones, but you took Jones.
Yeah, interesting. Nobody took Matt Ryan. This is an Atlanta show. Nobody took Matt Ryan, but I think you got to understand. You're trying, especially if you're playing for money. You're gonna kind of set the hometown thing to the side and go with somebody that's gonna produce, which is why I took Mahomes. But
we'll wait and see. Matty Ice, we'll wait and see.
All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for us tonight. We enjoy you guys sitting around and hanging out with us talking football for the past hour. So be sure to tune in next week. I think we'll be kind of digging into what we saw over at McEachern when we go over there Friday night. Kind of dig a little bit more into the Falcons after another preseason game. And then we'll have another great, lively conversation about the Atlanta Braves when we see what happens, with this next week with the Dodgers and the Mets. So until then, guys, enjoy. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us.